Welcome to this explainer. Look, the modern digital threat landscape, it basically feels like the Wild West out there. So today, we're cutting right through the noise to look at exactly how you can protect your organization's most valuable assets by building a truly robust digital fortress.
Here's our game plan for today. We'll be looking at the crown jewels of data, how attackers breach defenses, layering your cyber defenses, securing the network perimeter, and finally, the zero trust revolution. Let's get right into it. Section 1. The crown jewels of data. Because hey, before we can even think about constructing our defenses, we really need to know exactly what we're protecting inside the vault, right? And that brings us to the CIA triad. This is literally the bedrock of information security. It's the foundational framework that ensures we're applying the exact right level of protection to the right assets.
So, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it's a mix of administrative, physical, and technical measures. You've got confidentiality, which is using encryption to keep prying eyes out. Then there is integrity, which guarantees nobody has quietly tampered with your data behind the scenes. And lastly, availability. Because let's face it, your security doesn't mean much if authorized users get locked out of their own systems when they actually need to get work done.
Moving on to Section 2, how attackers breach defenses. Now that we've quantified our assets, it's time to meet the adversaries who are constantly probing our walls for weaknesses.
These attackers are indiscriminately exploiting the open internet, and their methods are, well, they're incredibly diverse. We're talking ransomware locking down critical, life-saving healthcare databases, phishing scams using social engineering to just straight-up hijack user credentials. Then you've got eavesdropping on unsecured traffic, and spoofing, where a hacker masks their true identity to impersonate systems we actually trust.
But here's where it gets really intense. The stakes are skyrocketing thanks to multi-vector, polymorphic attacks. These aren't your basic one-off strikes anymore. They infiltrate networks through multiple avenues at the exact same time. Think email and web apps. And they constantly morph their signatures. It's like a shapeshifter. This makes them almost impossible to catch with legacy defenses once they start spreading laterally. Honestly, it is a pretty daunting landscape filled with zero-day exploits and clever social engineering. All of this leads us to a massive question. With all these invisible, shape-shifting threats coming after both our people and our tech, how do we actually effectively protect the network?
Which brings us to Section 3, layering your cyber defenses. The answer to those complex threats lies in building a multi-layered castle, and that starts with a really solid blueprint. We like to use the NIST Cybersecurity Framework 2.0 for this. It's basically a continuous life cycle. First, you govern your overall risk strategy. Then, you identify and protect your assets. But you also have to assume a breach might happen, which is why it's absolutely crucial to maintain the ability to detect, respond to, and, finally, recover from active compromises.
Now, that whole framework leans heavily on a concept you've probably heard of, defense in depth. Think of it as an architecture where we never, ever rely on just a single barrier. We build multiple, overlapping layers of security. The beauty of this design is that if a hacker somehow breaches the outer wall, no problem. Another subsystem is standing right there ready to block them and contain the blast before it touches your critical data.
Section 4. Securing the network perimeter. With our blueprint laid out, the very first physical barrier we construct is that network perimeter.
And that's exactly where firewalls come in. They are the steadfast gatekeepers of our fortress. Sitting right at the ingress points, they stand between your local network and the Wild West of the open internet. Their whole job is to scrutinize incoming and outgoing traffic against strict, predefined policies, letting the legitimate users in and slamming the door of malicious activity.
But standard routing just doesn't cut it anymore. Today, we deploy web application firewalls to stop things like SQL injections dead in their tracks. We use endpoint detection and response to keep an eye on laptops when people are working on the go. We're even managing the Wi-Fi airwaves, pushing the critical operations to 5 and 6 GHz bands just to avoid all the noise and clutter on the 2.4 GHz space. Top it off with data loss prevention, and you ensure sensitive data absolutely never leaves the building without authorization.
Section 5, the Zero Trust Revolution. Because here is the harsh modern reality. With decentralized cloud computing and everybody working remotely, that old-school traditional perimeter, it's just not enough anymore.
Think about it. The traditional model basically gave you implicit trust the second you got past single sign-on. The response was totally reactive. But today, we have shifted to a zero-trust framework, where the mandate is literally never trust, always verify.
We're talking continuous multi-factor authentication and proactive monitoring, whether you're sitting at corporate HQ or working from a local coffee shop.
And at the very heart of this zero-trust model is microsegmentation. If your network is a castle, microsegmentation is like installing heavy-duty blast doors in every single hallway. It cages in any violation immediately. That means if malware gets in, its lateral movement is severely limited, completely stopping a small localized infection from reaching your core servers.
Transitioning to this constant verification model delivers massive real-world impact. We see radically reduced data breach incidents, much more streamlined security operations, and just unparalleled visibility into what users are actually doing. Plus, it scales perfectly for today's hybrid work environments while keeping you continuously compliant.
To sum it up, Zero Trust operates on one core assumption. The threat is already inside the house. No one gets a free pass by default. Every single file access and every single data transfer requires continuous, granular verification to keep your most sensitive data safe.
So, I'll leave you with this final thought to take away from this explainer. As our digital borders dissolve and cyber threats keep evolving at a terrifying speed, are you still relying on a single outdated castle wall? Or are you verifying every person and every device at every single step? Thanks for tuning in and stay secure out there.